Right, yeah, that's gone. Uh, right. I'm joined with Louis Dangoor from WrestleTalk. Uh, Louis, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've always said when people ask how you doing with everything going on, I'm just like nothing new to report, but all going well. All going well.
Yeah, it's a year and a bit in. It's same old, still
I
getting
keep
through.
saying like, oh, it's like, oh, how's the last few months been? And then I forget. No, it's not been a few months. It's been like a year and
Yeah,
3 months. So it's crazy,
yeah,
absolutely crazy.
yeah. I've had three changes of scenery throughout it, but the actual the core remained the same. Still in the pandemic, still getting
Exactly,
by, still having a good time.
exactly.
Uh, so starting off, I was wanting to ask, how did you get started at Wrestle Talk, and also how did you get into wrestling? Like, what kept you involved?
So I got into wrestling in 2010. Just generally was flicking through channels over here in the UK. Sky Sports used to show wrestling, so I just would watch it, and then was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Mm.
And then my brother got into it as well, so it used to be a thing like we did together. And then I just kept watching, like learning more about it, YouTube channels, that kind of thing. And one of the YouTube channels I watched was Wrestle Talk.
Mm.
So listening to their podcasts, listening to their reviews, that kind of thing. And then things sort of developed from there. And first year uni, I was like, oh, I've actually got quite a lot of free time because of just how my uni works and things like that. So I was like, all right, let me apply to write for Wrestle Talk because, like, for their website, I was like, listen, I'll volunteer, write for free. I just want some experience in journalism. My course isn't anything related to that, but I've always been interested in sports media, sports
It's
journalism,
politics, isn't it? Politics and something.
politics and international relations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I basically decided, screw it, let me just ask if I can write for them for free, and they said yes. And then sort of things developed from writing features to writing news, and then handling the website on the weekends, and then becoming an editor. And it sort of just developed from there to the point where I was then one of like the people running the website, one of the main editors on the website, doing more YouTube stuff, doing uh, like the live reactions we do, having our own show on YouTube. So just sort of it developed from there. So I started in January 2019. So it's now coming up to 2.5 years of Wrestle Talk. Yeah, I can only say positive things about my experiences
I
working there. It's
think
been great.
it's interesting how you've sort of done it in the reverse almost, because I feel like a lot of people, you 2010, you'd have been 10, you'd have been the same age as me then, and I feel like a lot of people that was almost when they started drifting away from wrestling. I feel like a lot of people do it the traditional way with they watched it as a kid, so like 10 to 14, they sort of drifted out of it because it wasn't the cool thing.
Yeah, like my friends will often say if I ask them, they're like, "Oh, like what'd you do?" So I'm like, "Oh, cover wrestling." And they're like, "Oh, like that WWE thing I used to watch as a kid." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's that I've had a sort of similar situation, not with covering it, but because I'm more cover football right now. But sort of when you start telling people more often that, oh no, I still watch it. And they're like, oh, but it's fake. I'm like, no, I watch it in a different way. I don't watch it in the same way I did now, and it's always that barrier. But you've sort of done it in the reverse. You almost came into it late, and then you stuck with it going through.
yeah." I mean, to the point where if I didn't have wrestling to watch, now we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes
Mm.
Sunday as well. I think I'd feel weird not having any wrestling to watch. So just it's become part of my life. It has become the main part of my life.
It is
Really,
your life.
I cover wrestling for work. I watch wrestling in my free time, even if I don't have to watch it for a show. So yeah, it has just become like a massive part of my life,
I
really.
think,
And it would feel weird if I sort of weren't to cover that anymore.
I think that's brilliant though, because I wear like a sort of, I don't want to use the wrong phrase of coming out, but sort of like where you start telling people more, no, I do still watch it, and they go, oh, do you sort of watch it in the background? I'm like, I realised recently, like telling my best mates, because maybe the last, I changed uni, so I into a sports journalism course, and I realised I need to be more true to myself, whether for a history course, found a course I like, changed sports journalism, started telling people, okay, no, I want to tell people I like wrestling, I like football, this is what I'm about. And when I was telling my mates more often, no, I do watch wrestling, they go, oh, you sort of casually watch. I'm like, I did the hours, and I think, no, no, I watch more wrestling than I do football. Football's 90 minutes a game, but I'm watching 3 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. sort of
Yeah.
most weeks.
That's the thing where it is again like you. I don't want to say coming out, but you don't. I guess now I just automatically tell people. I'm just like, yeah, I cover it for a job. But before, I think at school, not many people knew that I watched wrestling really. So it is sort of a thing that you do tell people, I guess, gradually. So yeah, I mean it is just such a major part of my life. Like every Monday, I know, all right, whatever happens, like 1 a.m., I got to watch Raw. Same Tuesday with NXT, Wednesday with Dynamite, that kind of thing. So it now just, I wouldn't say my life revolves around it, but I know on a Wednesday, I got to be home by 1 p.m. if I'm at 1 a.m. if I'm out because I got to watch it.
Yeah.
Obviously, some occasions I'm just like, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to go out with my friends. But yeah, it has become just such a major part of my
life. I watched back the Bischoff interview. 2 things I took from it. The first was, both from quite early on. The first was he said how quite often you're doing your interviews and the interviewee will go, "Oh, you're 20, you're 19. I could be your father." And I realised, well, that won't be the case here for the first time in a long time for you. We're the same age. We're both similar boats.
It's changed recently. I've interviewed a few people similar ages, like a couple of people in their like late 20s. Like I had Rhea Ripley, who's 24, so like not too far off. But no, like I mean Bischoff. Listen, with all due respect to him, he could be my grandpa.
Yeah, yeah, he has got about 45 years on you.
And that's the thing, like I don't mind it. I think it's like quite cool. Sometimes people do mind it in terms of I can tell like some definitely the old school wrestlers are like, why is this like 20-year-old trying to talk to me? You know, he wasn't even alive when I was like properly working. So the age thing isn't huge, but it does have sometimes a little bit of an impact.
Yeah, maybe not quite. It's not intentionally patronizing, but it sort of almost doesn't click with them that you've got this whole back catalogue and I can see it now. I'm not watching it on some VHS that I've got to dust off every time. It's the click of a button and I can watch your whole portfolio.
Exactly.
The other thing I took out was you asked him about how when he was starting off like on the main show of WCW, were there things he didn't feel ready for? Do you think that could apply to you? Because even with the 4,000 articles, I did my research. 4,000 articles.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I read the LinkedIn. Do you think there's still things that maybe with your age you're not quite ready for? You've thrown yourself in the deep end. You sink or swim.
Probably, but I don't like think about it at the time. I'm just like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, there's a bit of a running joke within the staff of WrestleTalk that if there's ever like an opening, I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. It's just I will always throw myself headfirst into anything, and maybe at the time, at the time I didn't appreciate it, but looking back on it, like, was I that qualified? Maybe not. Like, I didn't like my first interview was like John Moxley, who's like pretty big. Yeah. So like, was I qualified to do that at the time? Probably not. But I think the best way you learn is by doing it on the job. So I don't think that's necessarily like a bad thing. You just learn things on the go, and that I think I've done a lot of that with WrestleTalk, just learning things on the go, learning basically how to operate as a journalist. I'm not trained as a journalist, so learning how to be a journalist on the job has been pretty, like, in terms of eye-opening, in terms of media literacy, in terms of legality of what you can't report, things like that. I've had to learn it on the go. So that has been definitely the hardest part, but the most rewarding as well, because I think it's hard work, but I do enjoy it.
That's not such a bad thing, though, because almost like, you know how they say every new experience is a learning curve. You learn something every time.
Exactly.
But you actually are guaranteed that because everything you're doing is new. It's
exactly.
It's I looked back actually because I watched it. It was your second interview with John Moxley. The first was No Way Jose.
My first. So actually.
Oh, here we go.
Actually, the Moxley one was filmed first.
Right, and then uploaded second.
Yeah.
bit of a step up there. If you watched it in order, you think, all due respect to No Way Jose, you then went from him to the AEW World Champion at the time.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, just like how it all came together. But yeah, no, the Moxie one was filmed first, put out second, just like with the way things are working. And like the PR company, sometimes you interview someone a few weeks in advance and it's like under an embargo. So that's what this one was.
With AEW, with No Way Jose and John Moxley, you've interviewed a lot of people from different companies now. There's flicking through them. There was Young Bucks, then RH. There was Joe Koff. There's so many WWE talent. What's the difference between each of the companies, the talent?
Not much, really. They're just pretty open. You get more from indie guys because they have less to lose, I guess. They can say what they want.
There's not an overlord.
Exactly. But no, in terms of WWE and AEW, they're both very similar, follow the same protocol. You know what you're there to do. They know what they're there to do. Pretty simple. But yeah, I think in terms of, they're just people at the end of the day. And a lot of them are people that were in WWE that have just come to AEW. So there's not a big difference for me in that vein anyway.
Because obviously you're fresh to it. Same way I would be, and anyone our age. I feel like we've missed the generation almost where it's that old man trying to shoot on his employee that fired him.
Oh, we still get that. We still get that.
Do you think so? I wasn't.
Less so now, but yeah, because you don't get those typical shooting interviews, but you still do get some people just sharing stories, maybe not intentionally shooting, but kind of shooting. So you still get that.
Yeah. I was also thinking with obviously such a dissertation with G, how do you manage the workload? Because I counted 14 articles in 2 days ago.
Yeah.
How? I do 4 a week.
Yeah, I mean I've done 4,000 in like 2 years really, which is crazy to like think about. But how do I balance my time? I don't know really. And on paper, I shouldn't be able to. And I know that like some people would come to me for advice and be like, how do you manage your time? I'm like, don't ask me because I'm awful. I just generally work better when I've got like a goal in mind. So I will take WrestleTalk have been fantastic with this. I will just say, you know what, I'm going to take 3 days holiday, finish my essay, be done with it. And so I'm quite good at that. And thankfully, I work at a place that is very accommodating of that. So I think that has been a great help. And in terms of, I just do tend to set targets and be like, all right, today I'm going to write this amount of my essay and just get it done. And I think that has been helpful as well, having targets in mind.
From all those articles and interviews, I was going to ask you earlier, what did you think was the best interview you did? But I sort of think that's an impossible question. But what's the thing you think you've learned most from a specific interview?
So I do actually have a favorite, not favorite interview, an interview that I think was the best. Obviously, he passed away, but it was Brody Lee because
I was going to ask you about that later.
I think with an interview, I try and do it, and the way my style is to do it like a conversation between two people, like in a pub. And Brody was just great at that in terms of just made me feel comfortable, made me feel easy, like was just like, all right, let's just chat. And we were just chatting together, laughing, joking. And I think that was an interview I'm most proud of. I watched it back after his passing as well. And it was definitely one of my favorite ones I've done. And that is just as much to do with him as it was to me, probably even more so. Because I've been in interviews before where you just haven't got that connection with someone. And you like, everyone knows, sometimes it's just awkward to have a conversation with someone. And with some wrestlers, there's just no chemistry and it's awkward. But with Brody, it wasn't awkward at all. We just bounced off each other, which I really liked. So yeah, I'd say that was the one I was I'm most proud of. And in terms of what I've learned from interviews, I think it's just approach people like they're your friend. You don't like, I always say to people, and I say this for every interview, I'm like, listen, if there's anything you're not happy, because none of my interviews are live. I say, if there's anything you're not happy with, let me know, we edit it out afterwards. Yeah. And I will say the same to them after the interview. I said, were you happy with everything? If not, edit it out. Because they appreciate that I'm not trying to catch them out. I'm not trying to ask them a question that's going to lead to me getting a juicy headline that paints them in a bad light or paints someone they're speaking about in a bad light. I'm just going to try and approach the interview in the best manner possible that works for them. I'm like, what can I do for you? Yeah. So what are you trying to get across? What have you got coming up that we can promote? So I think if you show people that you generally care about them and what they want to put across, they are absolutely fantastic for you. So that's what I want to do. And that's what I try and do. And that's been the biggest learning curve for my interviews. Is just treat people like they're human beings and they will show you the respect back.
Clearly you've had some success with that though, based on how many interviews they've now sent you out on. It's working. You know?
The nicest thing is when you do get an interview, where you do get someone that you've interviewed coming, like sort of messaging you and being like, oh, I've really enjoyed that. Like, it's the best thing. And I've often had conversations with people that I've interviewed that have been like, listen, man, this was absolutely amazing. It's still crazy to me that people just appreciate my work like that. So yeah.
Especially when, like, a lot of people, if it's the older generation, they're almost your heroes. And then in the current crop, it's people like you watch their work regularly and you respect it. For them to then reciprocate that back to you,
you've got to detach yourself, I think. Like, listen, so I've interviewed FTR twice. I'm a massive FTR fan. I love FTR. I tweet them regularly. Like, I've got a relationship with both that I can speak to, and I'll be like, listen, that was good. That was very good. But I think you've got to detach yourself when you're in the moment, that you don't want to come across as like a fan. Obviously that is important because we're all fans, but you don't want to come across like, oh my God, look at me, I'm so lucky to be interviewing you. You've just got to come across as a professional. So you do have to detach yourself. And I think that's important. And something, again, I've had to learn to do, to just take myself out of this situation where I can be like, so when I interviewed Ric Flair, it was crazy, absolutely crazy. Like my biggest interview. And I had to detach myself for a moment and be like, all right, I can't be like watching this absolutely being beside myself. I've got to be a professional, and I can watch it back afterwards and smile the whole way through and laugh and think it's hilarious. But in the moment, I've got to be a professional.
Yeah.
So that's been important to learn. Yeah.
I was thinking about when you said how Bradley made you feel comfortable. I naturally did the same for you, which you don't know about, but I had all my Man United shirts hanging up. I've took them down. I realised enemy territory.
Let me show you that. I haven't taken my Liverpool shirt down.
Wow. Well, one way street this, isn't it? One way street. Oh.
Listen, Liverpool are not doing great right now, so I need all the support I can get. But no, it's stuff like that where I've thought times, do I make like my room more, I guess, wrestling focused? Like, should I get some posters up or some like pictures up or like a framed like thing behind me to like make it look more focused in my interviews? But then I've thought, so we've got the WrestleTalk backboards like you'd see in like a press conference at football. And I think that looks more professional. Like when you're on Sky Sports, for example, when Jamie Carragher's phoning in from his house, he's got his house. You don't have him with his like Liverpool posters up. And I think that's quite important as well. Just to, again, going back to that professionalism, just coming across professional, like, no, I'm here to do a job. I'm not here as like a wrestling fan. So I think that's important.
Yeah. The main question I've got is, I want to link it back to the UK if possible. Is Will Ospreay just became IWGP heavyweight champion. Drew was WWE champion for months. Nick Aldis is his second reign as NWA champion.
Yeah.
When's the first British AEW champion? And who?
Oh.
Or who would your dream pick be?
It'd be Pac. And I think he takes the title of Hangman Page, who's going to take it off Kenny Omega to sort of rekindle that feud. When, I don't know, but I think it will be Pac.
I feel like anyone who's not watched Pac's work past WWE has missed out on the best. I love him. Struggle. Yeah, he's incredible.
I love him. I think he's absolutely incredible.
He's that perfect mix of a heel you want to cheer almost, but you hate him so much. You want to hate him as well. It's that weird middle ground between, and it's all his work, and it's brilliant. Following on from that though, is the UK indie scene, like all other independent things, taken a big hit in the pandemic. What do you think is the biggest step to try and get people who watch the American product or the Japanese product within the UK, who are just casual fans, to sort of shift over and support their local, almost support the companies that pave the way?
Don't forget, we're going to have the big names coming over that were released last year. There's going to be a lot of names coming over. The FTR has spoken about wanting to come to the UK. I think you're going to see a lot of released talent come over to the UK who are going to be big names. AEW is doing some work with UK-based promotions. So I think getting that crossover of talent, those big names, will massively help in terms of viewership. And getting AEW over here anyway, I know they want to make the UK like a big hub for them. So I think doing that is going to be just of paramount importance for AEW. Just make, and for the British team, really just galvanizing it. And the British crowd are so lively. I think the first live show with fans, whatever the promotion, will sell out because everyone's just going to want to go.
I think it'll probably be. I think it'll probably be NXT UK. I think they'll be the first big one, but I would like to see more of a push. Like, I know it's because we're biased. We're British. We'd love to see it in our backyard and that push to the mainstream. But NXT UK is sort of. It's not the American brand yet. It's not publicized enough. It's not pushed. There'll be an advert for an NXT, but there won't be an advert for a Raw or SmackDown. It very much feels like a background thought at times, and it'd be great to see it hit that next level because the talent's there.
Yeah, the talent is there, and I think we will get that. I think they're starting that, and they're making some big signings. They're clearly showing that they're willing to pump money into the brand. I think, don't forget, NXT took a long time to get going, NXT in the States. And I think we're going to see the same with NXT UK. In a few years, I think I'd be surprised if they don't have like a live network deal over here with like BT Sport.
Or Challenge, take it off where Impact used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That was such a simple time. 145 on Challenge for years. It's beautiful.
Exactly. No, I think probably in a couple of years, we might be, maybe 5 years, you might see like NXT UK live on BT Sport, maybe.
Well, it's currently filmed in BT Studios. You know, the groundworks could be there.
Exactly, and the relationship, like it does show on BT Sport, just not live. I think the next step would be a live show for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've got many questions left.
It's all right.
The main one is, who's the dream interview?
Always struggle with this one.
I know mine. I've always stuck with mine.
I think Vince, everyone says Vince, but I don't think Vince is like, I'm going to think dream, but realistic. I'm going to go for Triple H. So I think there's so much you could dive into with career and like his work with NXT now. So I do think Triple H and like his vision for the future, I think it'd be very interesting to talk to.
Do you believe what he said, sort of how he'd be happy to not retire at WrestleMania?
Yeah. I think he's done. I think he's done. Like he's not in the work mindset now. I think he's in the business mindset.
I think he would have learned something from Sean coming out of retirement, where he said it was a bit of fun, but it's not the way you want to be remembered. It's that it won't tarnish anything, but it does. Yeah, it doesn't leave your memory, something like that. That was horrible.
So, you mentioned actually earlier your dream interview. Who do you think? Who's yours?
Matt Hardy, straight away. I was always a Matt fan growing up. It was Matt, not Jeff. Everyone went the other way. I was always Matt. I think it's because I resided my brother to being cooler than me, so I thought I'd take the less cool brother there as well. Then, and then there was a point where he was arguably the biggest wrestler in the world for a brief period, admittedly. But there was a point where he was huge, and he brought eyes on a company that needed eyes. He's adapted more than maybe anyone I can think of, and I just think there's so much there that I'd love to hear.
It'd be a very good interview. Like his mind for the business would be great. He definitely would be one that I would want to interview for sure.
Yeah, I think that's me done.
Awesome, mate.
I think I'll put